lecture, I like to kind of go back a few slides from where we ended up the previous time, just to give you kind of a, okay, this is what we were talking about. All right, that's what she was talking about, and we're going to start talking about it again. And so there were two words here that I really want you to understand, and that is, of course, the idea of visceral and parietal. And this is the way we're going to see. This might not mean a whole lot to you right now, but as we move through the body, especially when we get into the internal organs, this concept of the organs kind of pushing through this membrane and getting this kind of tube within tube kind of body plan will make more sense. And as we start talking about embryology. Okay, and then again, here was just what kind of section of the body is this? Transverse, right? So here's a transverse section, cross section through here. And so we can see that this is, just so you know what this is, these are lungs, and there's the heart. And so we can see that indeed we have these membranes, like we have a visceral and a parietal membrane around these organs. And that's the operative word here. I'm not asking you to learn pericardial cavity, pericardial sac, all that kind of thing. We're going to learn that when we get into the heart. What I want you to understand over these during this introduction, like this week and next week, we're going to just be talking about tissues and how the body is kind of organized and what we're going to be looking at, so that when we move into really looking at these structures in depth, you won't have to learn this part. Visceral parietal is going to seem like really easy for you. So again, here's another transverse section. Now you notice this section, where it is, so when it's transverse, we don't call it paratransverse, superior, inferior, it's just transverse, wherever it is. But when it's sagittal, it is parasagittal, because true sagittal plane is right down the median line. And again, here is just a image of the heart in situ, meaning inside its cavity. In situ is in its natural place. So here is the heart, and we can see that indeed, you can see the heart, when it developed, it pushed through these membranes and created these layers. Okay, so just moving on and just this kind of introductory phases of how to look at the body. This is a picture just showing very simple these quadrants. And it really is this simple: right upper, right lower, left lower, median line, left upper quadrant. But let's, even though we haven't studied these organs yet, you all have these organs, you might be familiar with them. What is this big red organ in the right upper quadrant? The liver. Right, okay, how about the lowest kind of tube shape in the left lower quadrant? That would be the sigmoid colon, right? So there's the colon. So right, so there's so much about anatomy that you already know. And I think the tendency in a class like this, and we have people of all different levels and ages and career goals in this class. So some of this material is review. For some people, it's brand new. And so we sort of have to kind of find a happy median in here. And anatomy is not a difficult subject at all. It's big. That's the only thing about it. It's just big. It's not difficult, but it is huge. And so we have to, and you're going to feel how huge it is. And probably about 6 weeks, you're going to be like, I can't learn anything more. But you will. You'll learn it all. And, okay, so now we're going to divide this region into 9 squares instead of quadrants. And so we're going to have now we're going to get into a little bit more descriptive language here. So hypochondriac region. This means hypo is below, chondriac is referring to a huge cartilage that's located there. What is that cartilage? Some of you if you haven't had lab yet, you might not have seen it. But those of you that have had lab, we studied it. We looked at it. What's this big cartilage right here? Cartilage. Costal cartilage, right. So hypochondriac region is sort of below the cartilage. It's not exact. And then, but that's sort of what that's referring to. Epigastric. Anyone want to hazard a guess to what is that term referring to? And you can see where it is. Above the gastric. What is another word for the gastric? Stomach, right. So above the stomach. Above the stomach. Left umbilical region, obviously, the navel and the umbilical cord. Right lumbar region. What is lumbar referring to?
Lower back.
The lower back. Right. So already, even if you didn't have this picture and I said right lumbar region, you'd probably be able to put your hand right on it. So, and that's the language of anatomy. And that's what, that's what I want you to gather from this class. Let's see, transcervicular line. I think we'll talk about that. Then subcostal line. Below costal, this costal cartilage, below the ribs, or below the ribs. Not really the cartilage, but below the ribs. Tubercular line. I think this is referring to the tubercles on the hip, and we haven't really talked about that, so we'll cover that later. But I just do want you to realize that everything in anatomy, the name really tells you a lot of information about it. And let's see, anything here? And this is just showing the organs that you would find in these regions. And this is why this would be important to kind of understand these kind of regions of the body. If you've ever read the doctor's medical report on you, or if you've ever read, like I read a lot of pathology reports and things like that, and so it's important for me to kind of understand what is being talked about. And it's just important to really understand this language. So this is much more specific than saying it's in my right